Hi, my name's Stu. I work in the welfare team in Campus Life, and today we're just doing a little video because it's World Diabetes Day, and we just want to raise a bit of awareness about diabetes and what it is. So in the UK, there's about 4.7 million people who currently live with diabetes, and a further 12.3 million who are at risk. Of those 4.7 million, about 10% have type 1 diabetes, and I'm one of those 10%.
So, what is the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes?
Okay, so type 1 is when your body attacks your body. So it actually stops your pancreas producing insulin. Whereas type 2 is within your blood sugar, within your blood there's a lot of sugar which actually then stops the insulin working as well. So type 1, it just kind of happens. You can't do anything to stop it. I kind of like it to my pancreas retiring early, whereas type 2 is more caused by poor diet and poor lifestyle, really.
Okay. So, what is your daily routine for managing diabetes?
Okay, so um, I've got an insulin pen. So because my pancreas has retired, I take insulin, and I have to inject this every time I eat carbohydrates. So I work it out how much carbohydrates I've eaten and then how many units, and then I inject it into my body. Um, I I measure my blood sugar about 30 times a day. I've got a little patch on my arm, and that actually links straight up to my phone. This is really new technology. It's been absolutely life changing. A few people do mistake it for a nicotine patch, or someone actually thought I had an ASBO, but it's actually really, really good technology, which has dramatically changed my life because I used to have to prick my finger for blood and do that all the time. So yeah, I do that, and check it before exercising, check it before going to bed, that sort of thing.
Cool. Tell us a bit about when you were diagnosed with it and how did it make you feel?
So I was 21 at the time. I've been living with friends. We were having a really good time and enjoying ourselves. But I lost a lot of weight. I lost about a stone and a half in about 3 weeks. I was drinking water all the time, waking up in the night, needing to drink, thirsty, going to the toilet a lot, eating a lot. So my friend, who was a paramedic, took me to hospital. And then they said, yeah, if you had come in one day later, you might have been in a coma. So at the time, it was a bit of a shock because I was a healthy young man, and it did upset me a bit. But I spent 5 days in hospital. I read as much as I could. I knew a lot about nutrition and exercise anyway, and I just took that time to really sort of focus on what I needed to do to make my life better, really.
Cool. So, what are the dangers and issues you face having type 1 diabetes?
Okay, so people with diabetes um, can have something called hypos or hypoglycemia. And what that means is you've got too much insulin or you haven't got enough sugar in your blood. And that can cause things like dizziness, confusion, not being able to speak, or even worse, it can cause fainting, coma, and at the worst thing, you can die from it.
So, what advice would you give for someone seeing a friend having a hypo?
Okay, so the biggest thing, when I was diagnosed, I told my family and friends who were absolutely fantastic, is if you see someone having a hypo, do not give them this. Although this is our medicine as such, do not give insulin because what that'll do is that'll lower your blood sugar even more and have really bad effects. So the best thing to do is to give somebody sugar, whether that's in form of a drink, liquid, Haribo. I've always got wine gums on me, and the worst thing if they're unconscious is to actually rub sugar in gums. So whatever you do, do not give people insulin, just give them sugar.
What makes hypos more dangerous or common?
So one of the biggest things I think is alcohol. So alcohol, the sugar in the alcohol makes your blood sugar go really high, but then over the course of the evening it drops it down further. So what that can cause is issues when you've had a few too many to drink, and you perhaps pass out or fall asleep, and your blood sugar drops to dangerous levels. So the key thing to that is always to eat after a night out or after having a few beers. So a kebab or McDonald's or something healthier, just to sort of maintain your blood sugar levels. Exercise also affects it, but it's also a really important thing to help maintain it. Just be careful before you start exercising, during and after, to always check your blood sugar.
And finally, what would your top tips be for someone who has just been diagnosed?
Okay, so I think the first thing is accept it. It's one of those things that has happened. You're just going to have to deal with it, but that's okay. Be positive with it as well. It doesn't have to make a huge difference on your life unless you let it. Read up about it, arm yourself with as much knowledge as you can about its treatment, about the best ways to manage it, what works for you and what doesn't. Get support, so whether that's from friends, from family, people who have diabetes, from your doctors, from diabetic nurses. They're all extremely helpful. Be safe, so it can be dangerous. It doesn't have to be dangerous, but always carry sugar, always carry sweets with you. Always tell somebody if you're on a night out that you're diabetic. Just let people know. I tell all my friends and bore them all the time. Adapt, but don't change your life. So for me, the biggest thing is, I still surf, I still play football, I still go to the gym, and I was determined that none of that was going to stop when I had diabetes. And the last thing then, the best bit of advice for me is to maintain a healthy diet, and keep exercising all the time, because what that does is it sort of stabilizes your blood sugar and stops you having hypo. So yeah, I hope that gave you a little bit of an intro as to what diabetes is, and how to spot it in a friend, and how to help them, and just raise awareness. So thanks.